How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my week 9 picks video for the games tomorrow. So sorry for getting this out super late as I'm recording this. It's 10:19 on Saturday night. I just had an absolutely slammed beyond belief schedule this week. I've been super busy the past couple months, so I really have not had much free time. So I apologize for this video being late, but better late than never, right? So I did get the Thursday game right. I picked the Jets, and I it's kind of an upset, but they were favored by 2.5, so not really from a line perspective. But most people were picking the Texans, obviously, I think. So at least in my league, 82% were. So yeah, I guess I just kind of a gut feeling that the Jets were going to win. They ended up winning. So thank God. Finally got a pick right that didn't screw me over because I've had a lot of picks that I picked an upset and just some of them hit and some of them just completely screwed me over. Doing a little bit better with my picks. I'm now in 90, about 91 percentile if you round up in my league, 79 and 45. Been stacking some wins together the past couple weeks, a lot more wins than losses. So hopefully I can continue that streak. So I'll just dive straight in here. The first game, we got Cowboys and Falcons. I'm gonna go with the Falcons in this game, but part of my gut kind of is leaning Cowboys. The Cowboys typically win games like, or maybe not typically, but have a tendency to win games like this, where they're the underdog. They are getting shit on by the media. They're coming off a bad performance. Most people are picking them to lose against kind of an evenly matched team. The Falcons are better, but they're kind of close to evenly matched. The Cowboys have a tendency to win these games a lot of the time. That I at least I think that's how it goes down. So a part of my gut is kind of saying Cowboys, but I'm gonna go with the Falcons. They're just the better team so far. They've been pretty consistent this season. Really, the only like bad game they had was that Seahawks game 2 weeks ago, but they've been pretty consistently balanced. And so week one, they put up kind of a shitter against the Steelers too. They didn't look great week one, but Cowboys have just been bad most of the season. The Niners pretty much dominated them last week. They only lost by 6, but the Niners were the first half, even when the Cowboys had the lead at the half, and I talked about it in my Week 8 recap video. The Niners were outplaying them. It's just they were beating themselves. I mentioned with drops, uh, just miscommunications, penalties, things like that. Then they turned it on in the third quarter, and then that's what the game I kind of expected it to play out as. I think most people did too. Then the fourth, the Cowboys did the normal thing of scoring a bunch late, making it a game. They just weren't able to capitalize. But the Niners thoroughly outplayed them, at least that I think. And the Lions obviously thoroughly outplayed them the 2 weeks before that. They had their bye in between those games. So they're coming off 2 games where they lost and got thoroughly outplayed. And their defense is still banged up. The Falcons they've been playing pretty well, pretty consistent most of the years I'm talking about. Their offense is part of my gut thinks the Cowboys' run defense could have a good performance, but the Falcons, even if they don't have much going in the run game this year, they keep pounding the ball and attempting it. But their offense is pretty well balanced, putting up a good amount of points. Their defense is I think it's been good, but not obviously it hasn't been great. It's kind of been up and down this season. They kind of struggle to get pass rush pressure on the quarterback. Falcons are just the better team in this one. I even though part of me kind of wants to pick the Cowboys, I'm gonna pick the Falcons. I'm not too confident. I'm not betting on this game at all because I definitely could see the Cowboys. We get about 3 out of 4 people in my league are picking the Falcons. So yeah, Falcons are favored. Should win. They're the better team. I Oh, the Spurs just beat the Timberwolves. That's a little surprising. Speaking of up and down team, the Timberwolves have been super up and down this year. But anyway, back to this game. Yeah, I'm gonna say I think the Falcons' offense puts up somewhere in the 20s. Their defense plays well. I think the Cowboys' offense could have. I'm gonna say the Cowboys score 17 to 20. I'll say 17, and the Falcons score. I'll say 24, 27. I'll say 24-17 or something like that. But it would not at all be surprised if the Cowboys win this game. Next game we get Dolphins Bills. Definitely going with the Bills in this one, but this could be a trap game. Dolphins obviously just got Tua back. They played a solid game last week, just came up a bit short against the Cardinals. But the problem is the Bills usually take care of games like this, potential trap games, and they played the Dolphins earlier in the year and they completely dominated them, just destroyed them, blew them out. I friggin' picked the Dolphins in that game like an idiot. But it wasn't a bad pick at the time, I don't think. Horrible pick at least, but yeah, the Bills are obviously just the better team. They just absolutely slaughtered the Seahawks last week in Seattle. Their offense has been better, their defense has been better. Just even last week, Tua maybe a bit of rust. It was just a lot of short passing for the most part. It looks like he's still getting into the thick of things here, trying to get into a in game shape. Maybe not shape, but game flow. He's just not. He might take a bit to knock off the rust. I guess is what I'm trying to say. The Bills' defense has just been balling out. They really made Tua struggle the last time they played them. Even before he got hurt, he had a couple picks. One of them was pick six, if I remember right. The sideline there. I think he had like three picks in the first half. Yeah, the Dolphins defense has actually kind of been a little bit underrated this year, but the Bills offense, I think, is just going to take care of business in this one, and their defense. I think just as an overall team, the Bills are going to take care of business in this game. Dolphins are just oof. Just they get Tua back last week, playing a good, solid, respectable Cardinals team. Get a win, get your season back on track, and they were in control most of the game, had the lead, and then they ended up blowing it late. Uh, so yeah, they're just their season. Obviously, they are not where they want to be. I could see them up winning this game. It would be an upset. I'd be surprised a little bit, but it's the division game, and especially the second time around, it's maybe a little harder to predict. Especially the Bills, they blew the Dolphins out the first time, so maybe they just try to replicate a lot of what they did in that game, and the Dolphins try to adjust. Maybe they see more success. Who knows? I Definitely a really hard game, or not a hard game to predict, but a how do I word it? Just I'm confident with the Bills. They should win this game. Fairly confident they're going to win, but I'm not like 100% locked in. I would probably say I'm at like an 80-20 confidence level. So this game I'd probably say like 60-40. Yeah, I could see the Dolphins win. I think their offense could maybe have some success. Tua gets some rust knocked off. I just think the Dolphins defense is going to have a rough showing in this one. I think the Bills take this game, score of around, say 28-31, something like that. I'll say 28. I kind of want to say 14, but I'll give the Dolphins 17. I'll say 28-17, something like that in the Bills' favor. Next game, we get Raiders and Bengals. Yeah, I'm pretty confident with Bengals in this game. And obviously, it's the Bengals 3-5, so it's maybe a bit odd to say that. But obviously, the Raiders are 2-6. Their season is just kind of a wash at this point. They're still competing. They're right there with some good teams. Obviously, last week with the Chiefs, it looks. I kind of predicted that game fairly well. I thought the Raiders could be competitive. It would be closer than people think. And the Raiders had a chance to take the lead in the third quarter. And, that's when they got stuffed at the goal line after that pick they got on Mahomes. And they were first and goal, I think, at the 3-yard line and couldn't get in 4 plays. That's obvious. And then from there, the Chiefs just pretty much won the game, just dominated from that. Not dominated, but took control from that point out. But the Bengals, this is a must-win. They have playoff aspirations. Joe Burrow said it's a must-win. They're going to be in, must-win mode, yes. Uh, at home, they're going to get the fan support. They're just the better team, even though they've kind of been inconsistent, not great this year. Raiders defense is underrated, but the Bengals offense, it looked pretty good against the Eagles the first half last week. And even in the second half, I think they moved the ball fairly well. It just they couldn't capitalize with points for the most part. I think really the only drive they looked bad. I don't even think that they got a first down was at 4th and 1. The bubble screen type play that they stopped Chase on the Eagles. Like the similar play they ran against us week 1, that bubble screen out to Chase that we stopped. But yeah, the Bengals offense, I think, is going to have a good game. Kind of can see it torching the Raiders defense. Bengals defense, I think, kind of is a bounce back game. The Raiders offense, obviously, not been good all year. It's very much struggling. I could see the Raiders winning this game because they're kind of one of those sneaky teams with a bad record, but kind of can pull off an upset any given game or any given week. So I could see the Raiders winning, but I feel fairly confident with the Bengals. I just think they're the better team. They know they need to win this game. Raiders just trended in the wrong direction. Bengals, even though they're 3-5, they've been playing a bit better the past couple weeks. So yeah, I'm gonna say Bengals win. I'll say 28-14. I'll say 28-14 in the Bengals' favor there. Oh, this is a very interesting game. I get something in my throat here. I gotta take a sip of water. Okay. Jesus, something is friggin' stuck in my throat. I just had a friggin' granola bar. That's probably what it is. But anyway, Chargers and Browns. Interesting game here. Browns obviously coming off a big win last week with Jameis Winston. He hit over 300 yards. They beat the Ravens, obviously a top-tier team. They were on a complete roll up to that point. They'd won 5 in a row. The Browns defense has been pretty solid all year. It just hasn't gotten that recognition because the Browns have been so bad, mainly their offense. But they played a fairly solid game last week against the Ravens. Even though the Ravens put up a good amount of points, got a good amount of yards, the Browns defense still played well. Obviously, their offense moved up and down the field most of the game. They put up a really good amount of points, really good amount of yards. The Ravens defense has been struggling. That's still pretty impressive considering how bad they've been with Deshaun Watson in there. But I definitely can see them winning this game. I just think the Chargers, I mentioned it in a couple of my videos now. Jim Harbaugh, these are the games he just lives for, kind of probably a low scoring defensive grinded out game. Play for field positioning, clock management, stuff like that. I don't really think this game is going to be a shootout at all. And Jim Harbaugh usually lives for those situations. And the Chargers defense has just been absolutely insane this season. I think I saw the other day they're actually the number 1 scoring defense in all of football. So Winston, as good as he played last week, he got away with a couple passes that should have been picked. Obviously, the Kyle Hamilton one stands out the most at the end of the game. And he did get strip sacked that led to a Baltimore touchdown at the end of the first half. So if he makes those same mistakes, I think the Chargers defense is going to be able to capitalize. That could be a big turning point in the game. And the Chargers offense has been getting it going in the past 2 weeks. So I think they'll be able to put up a good amount of points, but not a significant amount. I think they'll probably score somewhere. I'll say they score about 20, 21 points. I could see 17. It's a bit on the lower end, but I'll just say the Chargers put up. I'll say 21. I'll say the Browns put up. I'll say 14. I'll say 14. I think their offense kind of comes back down a bit after their last game. I don't think it's going to play as well as it did last game, their offense, now that the Chargers kind of tape on Winston and how he operates under this Brown system. They also, pretty sure if I remember right, they changed coordinators. Stefanski gave up play calling. So maybe schematically they ran some things differently, but now the Chargers going to have some tape on that. They're really good at preparing for that. Um, I mean, preparing for games in general. So, yeah, Jim Harbaugh, I think, is going to have his team ready to play. And just a grind out game like this, I'm going to trust him. Definitely can see the Browns winning this one, though. Not too confident in the Chargers. I'll probably say 60-40 split. That's fairly close at the pick percentage here. We get about a 2/3 split here in my league. So, yeah, I'm gonna say Chargers win. Yeah, I'll say 21-14, something like that. Yes, yeah, here we go. My team. I'm picking my team to win this game, and I'm surprised slight majority, but a majority of people in my league are 56%. We're the underdogs in this game. I think I want to say by 3.5. I want to say they just announced that Mason Rudolph is starting. So if Will Levis was starting, I feel even better about this pick. But Mason Rudolph playing a bit better, so I feel a little less confident. I definitely just think this is a very low scoring game. Has that written all over it. We get two bad offenses and but two solid defenses. The Titans defense is kind of it's been better than ours, but then obviously last week against the Lions, it was just a disaster for most of the game, even though they started out well, fairly well the first drive or two. But yeah, I mean also Drake May got cleared from concussion protocol. I think that's big. I think that definitely is a boost to our offense, even though Brissett stepped in the game, played pretty well last week. Obviously, that clutch drive at the end of the game there to give us the win. But yeah, I just think also the special teams, the Titans, I see some people talking about it. The Titans special teams, it actually is impressive how terrible it is. And we have Marcus Jones, who's a very good punt returner. So that could be a difference in this one if he gets good field positioning off a punt, because I definitely think the Titans are going to be punting a lot in this game. I think our defense plays well. And so, yeah, forces a lot of punts. So Marcus Jones returning punts, that could come in handy for us. I think our offense is going to have spurts in this game where they move the ball fairly well. The Titans, on the other hand, their offense, I could kind of see their offense having a solid game where they move the ball in spurts and we stop them for spurts. The key to us for this game is to keep it close in the first half. Obviously, preferably have the lead. Obviously, you want to beat by as much as possible, like duh. But the Titans' offense in the second half this entire season has been, I don't know, like for a fact, but I'm willing to bet they are top three in least amount of points scored in the league offensively in the second half. I feel like a lot of the time I do my recap videos, I'm looking at their second half scoring. It's like 0-0 for the third and fourth quarter. So obviously, if we can shut them out for 2 quarters, that's going to be very helpful. Our defense has played fairly well this year, kind of underrated. There's a couple games you look bad. Obviously, the Jags game, the Jets game, week 3, and the Niners. The Niners moved the ball on us, but we kind of held them to a lot of field goals. Brissett threw a pick six. That was 7 points, not on our defense. There. Um, I think I mentioned the Jags game. We played like shit if I didn't in that one. Defensive, well, as a team, but defensively, I mean. But yeah, May, I think scrambling could give the Titans issues. But yeah, whew, I feel fairly decent about this game. I probably have like a 65-35 confidence split on it. Of course, the Titans could win. They're at home, but we've been the better team this season, and that at least that I think. You can probably make an argument otherwise, but there's not too many teams who are better than this season. I think the Titans are one of them. We're coming off a win, maybe a bit of a morale boost. The Titans, on the other hand, just got their asses handed to them by the Lions, allowed over 50 points, so that was a disaster for them. But I just think we match up fairly well with the Titans. We're going to be able to force punts, get good field position off punts, hopefully with the Titans' horrendous special teams. I think our offense has a good amount of success, and I just trust us to score more and get stops more. So I'm going to say we take this game. I'll say 20 to I'll say 20 to 13, something like that. And my buddy Mike's going to this game, so shout out Mike if you are watching this video by chance. Commanders Giants. I'm going with the Commanders in this one. I'm not very confident in this one as much as I should be. Couple things I didn't even think about this, but the Goat House, who I watch a bunch, he was saying how teams, when they come off of games where it's like an emotional win over like a big team or they win in dramatic fashion, they tend to a lot of the time put up like a flat performance the week after. Obviously, the Commanders won a won against the Bears in dramatic fashion with that tipped Hail Mary. So maybe that's in play, but and the Giants are due for a win. They're bad, but they've been competing with pretty much every team they played this season, except the Vikings and the Eagles. But other than that, at the top of my head, every other game they played has been like relatively close. So they're due for a win. Their defense has been playing really well all year for the most part, but their offense it has spurts where it moves the ball, but it is really struggling to find the end zone. The Commanders' offense has obviously been really good this season with Jayden Daniels. They moved the ball up and down the field most of the game last week against Chicago, but they couldn't score touchdowns. They just settled for field goals the entire game. The only touchdown they got was off the Hail Mary at the end. There was that Zach Ertz controversial call, so they probably should have had a touchdown. Who knows prior to the Hail Mary, but they're just the better team right now, obviously. If nothing else, their records say that alone. Their offense has been better. Their defense has been better. Their defense has been picking it up the past couple weeks. I've been impressed with their defense. But the Giants are due for a win. Week 2, when these teams played, I picked the Giants, and they should have won that game if they had their kicker. Graham Gano got hurt. And I just saw earlier their kicker, I think they had to place him on IR, and they're elevating someone from the practice squad. So I guess every time these teams match up, the friggin' Giants kicker is going to get hurt for some reason. At least it happened the day before instead of like, I think when Graham Gano got hurt, it was in pregame warmups. And then they had to go for 2 a bunch. They couldn't get it. Neighbors dropped a 4th down. And so that, I think they would have beat the Commanders week 2. But that was earlier in the year. The Commanders were still kind of figuring some things out. And then obviously week 3 on, they've been like an elite team. That Monday night game against Cincy is when they really turned it on this season. So I could see the Giants just winning this game simply because they're due a divisional game. Commanders maybe have a flat performance after that Hail Mary win last week against the Bears, but I just can't pick the Giants. The Commanders are the better team. I'm just going to have to pick them in this game. I think their offense plays well. Maybe that Giants pass rush gets a lot of pressure on Daniels. Maybe his rib injury starts to show, gets sore throughout the game, takes some hits maybe. But I just can't pick the Giants. I think the Commanders' defense could. A small part of me thinks there is a scenario where the Giants maybe even win this game by more than 1 score. Just I don't know why. Just a small part of my gut is telling me they kind of win this game or are in control of it the whole time, and it's kind of a shocking result of the day. And their offense kind of just has a really efficient game, moves up and down the field for a good part of it. But I just can't pick the Giants. I'm going with the Commanders in this game. I'm going to say they take this one. I'll say maybe a bit lower scoring than people think. I'll say Commanders score 24, and the Giants put up, I'll say 24 to 14. I was going to say 13, but I'll say 24-14 Commanders. Saints Panthers. Oh boy, this is certainly a game. Certainly a game here. I'm going with the Saints in this game. Obviously, just 2 disastrous teams. About 90% of people in my league are picking the Saints. 89% are. As weird as this might be, I kind of feel fairly confident with the Saints. The Panthers are just flat out bad. They've been an absolute disaster this season outside of that upset win against the Raiders when I'm getting a notification and Shadowman ripping the Warriors. Must be getting blown out or something right now. But outside of that upset win against the Raiders, and then they played actually decent against the Bengals that following week, the Panthers have just been an absolute dumpster fire this year. The one good thing is their opening drives tend to actually be fairly good. They end up going down the field scoring for at least the most recent past couple weeks. They've been able to score, but then after that, they just completely shit the bed. And the Saints have been bad, but they've had a legitimate excuse of all the injuries they have, and obviously Carr's been out. They've kind of been playing musical chairs a bit with their quarterbacks, with Rattler and Hayner. But it looks like Derek Carr might come back in this game. Let me see if he's playing in this one. Let's see. Off injury report set to make return. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna pick the Saints regardless anyway, but I picked this in mind with Carr. But obviously that gives me more confidence. So that's gonna give a boost to the offense. They're obviously still dealing with a ridiculous amount of injuries. They just placed two more, I think, of their receivers. Bub Means is one of them. I forget the other one on IR today. So, God, Silver wants to change All-Star game. Oh boy, can't wait to read that. But yeah, they just had the injury excuse, a legitimate excuse. They've been kind of competing with some teams. They mostly been getting blown out, but they just have a legitimate excuse, and they're just the better team than the Panthers. They're more talented, even with all their injuries. They're due for a win. They've kind of, they played the Chargers fairly tight last week for a portion of the game. Panthers just been getting blown out with everyone. Obviously, these teams played week one, and the Panthers just absolutely shit the bed in that game. That was the start of the Saints Super Bowl run for the first 2 weeks of the year. So I don't think it'll be like that again, but I just can't pick the Panthers in this one. I really just, most of these games, I'm like, I see a scenario, this team wins and kind of walk through it. Most of the games, I like to go through a scenario, like say why both teams could win. But the Panthers, I really am struggling to find out how they can win this game. They just traded Johnson, so they're pretty much in tank mode this year. Saints are still trying to win. So yeah, really the only reason logically the Panthers could win this game is, I guess, they're due, and it's a divisional game, and I don't know, maybe their offense just has a weird performance where they play good, and the Saints' injuries, maybe even with Carr in there, their offense was kind of bad since from week 2 on. So maybe the Panthers defense, which has been an absolute dumpster fire this year too, steps up and makes the Saints offense struggle. But I just really do not see a very realistic scenario where the Panthers win this game. Sorry, Panthers fans, if anyone is watching this video and you're a Panthers fan, but I just really do not see it. I mean, of course they could win. It's any given game, any given week, but and the Saints are obviously 2-6. It's not like they're miles better than the Panthers. But I'm just gonna say the Saints win this game. Their offense plays good. Great, but good. Their defense, I think, is gonna make Bryce Young look bad. Maybe the Panthers do what they do the past couple of weeks of a good opening drive, then they shit the bed the rest of the year. Who knows? It looks like, Panthers might be able to win this one after their opening drive, and then they just shit the bed. But I don't know. I'm just gonna say the Saints win this game. I'll say 24 to maybe 27. I'll just say 24 to, I'll say 24 to 10, 24-13. I'll say 24-13. Okay. Get some water down. Broncos Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens in this game. I mean, Broncos, I think the line on this game was like 9.5 in the Ravens' favor. So the Broncos have been stacked. I mean, these teams had the same record. I think the Ravens are a far better team. But the Broncos have been stacking some wins together. They've won 5 out of their last 6. They started out 0-2 and have won every game since then except one to the Chargers. That was the one they dropped. Their offense has been putting together good performances. They've been moving the ball efficiently, putting up a good amount of points. So the Ravens defense has been very off this season, except that Buffalo game's kind of the one exception. The Ravens defense, they're blowing coverages. They made Winston when the offense looked great last week, which has been struggling all year. Obviously, that was with Watson, so maybe it's the prize factor with Winston, or you just seem to feel better, or something like that. Schematically, the coordinator change I mentioned earlier, maybe that was part of it. Then against the Bucs, they were blowing coverages at the end of the game. Rachaad White did a walk-in touchdown, like I think it was just a basic crossing route. They blew the coverage on. That Dallas game, they allowed a bunch of points in the fourth quarter. So they have just not been very sound and coordinated as a unit this season for the most part. The Broncos offense been putting up a good amount of points. Their defense obviously played very well. And these teams did match up a couple of years ago. And I think that was, I want to say Tyler Huntley started that game, and they ended up winning it right at the end of the game. It was like a 10-9 final, I think. It was a very ugly game. Obviously, that was 2 years ago, so I'm not going to base too much off of it. And obviously, Lamar's just far better than Tyler Huntley. That was with the Russes on the Broncos, Hackett too. So, and that was with Ejiro Everett coordinating the defense. So, but I don't know. I don't really know why I'm honestly even talking about that game, but I don't think it's going to play out like that at all. Well, who knows? Maybe it could, but I don't think so. But the Ravens are just, I mean, I think they're going to be pissed off last week. They blew so many chances. There is the Hamilton drop pick I mentioned earlier. Bateman had a drop. That's what they made them trade for Deontay Johnson. Aguilar had a drop. They got sucked on 4th and 1, their opening drive. What else? There was one other I think I'm missing. I don't know. Yeah. So they're going to be pissed off, I think. They're at home. They see if they had a loss last week, I would honestly consider taking the Broncos because they would have been due for a loss. They would have won 6 in a row. They won last week. Broncos are kind of red hot right now. But I mean, I think I would probably end up picking the Ravens still, but I just think they're pissed off. They take care of business at home. They're the better team. Broncos are playing a lot better, but they're not a great team still. They've just kind of been playing some mid to bad teams. Obviously, that's not their fault, but they just play who's assigned to them on the schedule. But the Ravens are just better. I could see a close game, but I think the Ravens end up winning this game by more than one score. I think this could get ugly for the Broncos. I could see like a 27-10 final. If the Broncos somehow win, I definitely think it's within one score. But I could see the Ravens winning by multiple scores. Do you know what? I'm going to predict it. Why not? I'm going to say the Ravens win 27 to, I'll say 14. The Broncos or the Ravens defense kind of is a bounce back game. Broncos offense kind of comes back down to how it was playing the first couple weeks of the year, first 2 weeks, I guess. And yeah, I just think the Ravens take care of business. And this, and you know what? Actually, I'll say 27 to. You know what? I'm going to say 27 to 20. I'm going to say the Broncos at the end of the game end up getting a score. Maybe they go for an onside kick or something. Don't get it. Make it a respectable score. I'll say 27 to 20. I would be surprised if the Broncos won, but I wouldn't be completely shocked. But yeah, I just think the Ravens take care of business in this one. Bounce back. Bears Cardinals. So this is literally talk about a 50-50 split. It's 49-51. Cardinals are favored in this game. If it was in Chicago, the Bears I think would definitely be favored. But on the road, Cardinals are on the road for the Bears. The Cardinals are favored at home. I'm going to go with the Bears in this game. I definitely could see a scenario with the Cardinals. Well, obviously not a scenario. But the Cardinals are favored. But I could see the Cardinals winning this game. They've won two in a row. They're actually first in their division with tiebreakers, I'm pretty sure. And at home, could win three in a row, beat a respectable, pretty solid Chicago team. And they're going to want to get that win against a really good team. Not a really, a good team that's still kind of figuring some things out more so offensively. It has the potential to be a really good team and extend your lead on the division. But we've seen from the Cardinals this year, they look good one week, then bad the next week, and they looked pretty bad for a portion of the game against the Dolphins. They ended up winning late, kind of similar to the Niners game, but they looked good. Yeah, they looked good early on. They had that Kyler, I think, the scramble touchdown opening drive, then the Niners kind of took control after that until the fourth when the Cardinals came back. And then the Chargers, they it was back and forth, but the Chargers I think had the lead most of that game. Uh, More so on the first half. I think the second half maybe the Cardinals did, but I don't exactly remember 100% off the top of my head. But yeah, my point is just the Cardinals have kind of been inconsistent. The Bears haven't been very consistent either, but they deserved to lose last week. They got outplayed, and then at the end, obviously they got outplayed. They didn't deserve to win, but at the end of the game, they still should have won. So they really should be 5-2. I I do see a scenario where maybe the Cardinals just have a really good performance and the Bears just put up a shitter, and it's like, yeah, that Hail Mary might have ruined the Bears season. It's gonna drop their season the wrong direction. But well, the Warriors just won, so I don't know what my chat was talking about when they were ripping them earlier. Oh, an OT against the Rockets. I had the Rockets in that game, so of course the Warriors win. But anyway, what was I just saying? I get super off track very easily. You guys can probably tell by now. Yes, but Bears, that Hail Mary scenario could end their season. They put up a shitter in this one. That talking point. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is a close game. I think the Bears defense has been absolutely insane this season. I think they have a really good defensive performance. Cardinals offense is kind of stalled out for good portions of the game. I think the Bears defense plays really well. Cardinals defense has been not great this year, but been playing better the past couple weeks. But the Bears offense is obviously just absolutely abysmal for about 85% of the game, 85% of the game against the Commanders, just absolutely abysmal. But they could have a bounce back game in this one. I'm going to say the Bears end up winning, kind of an ugly football game here. I'll say I don't think either team wins by more than one score. I'm going to say I don't think either team wins by more than one score, but I'll say the Bears win this game. I'll say 20. I'll say 24 to. I'll say 24-17. I mean, would not at all be surprised if the Cardinals win. I think this is close to a coin flip. I probably have like a 55-45 confidence probability in the Bears winning this game. I just hard game to pick, but I'm gonna say the Bears bounce back. Cardinals kind of an inconsistent bad performance. Bears just play better for small portion of the game maybe, and that's the difference. I'm just gonna go with the Bears in this game with that score of around 24-17-ish. Jags, Eagles, yeah, I'm definitely going the Eagles in this game. The Jags they've been playing better the past couple weeks, really since getting back to that Texans game. But the Eagles, they're just getting the Eagles at the wrong time. The Eagles last week, I mentioned it in my recap video for week 8. Last week, they just kind of broke out of that funk that, at least to me, that it seemed they did since they've had or been stuck in since that Niners debacle last year. They just would take a really complete team, not really that first half, more so the second half. They just would take a complete team. Just their offense looked good, their defense looked good. They dominated that second half pretty much. I think that's going to carry over to this game. The Eagles honestly dominate. The Jags been playing better, as I mentioned, but they just lost Kirk and Brian Thomas. Pretty sure is out a couple weeks. So obviously that's the Jags offense has been playing better, but it's kind of been struggling all year. Obviously that doesn't help. The Eagles defense has played pretty well for a majority of the year. They've had a couple outliers where they put up a shitter and they were inconsistent, but last week they really clamped down. I think their defense is a really good performance in this one. The Jags offense struggles. I think the Eagles offense is a really good performance. Jags, if they somehow win this game, I think it'll just be. I really do not see a scenario where they win, honestly. But if they do somehow win, I think it's more likely. I honestly think it might be more likely the Panthers somehow win than the Jags in this game, as crazy as that might be to say. But I'm trying to think if the Jags can win, um, or how they can win if they end up somehow pulling off this big upset. Ooh, I'll say if they win, it's going to have to be off their offense having a surprising performance because I really think their defense is going to get torched in this one. So their offense is going to have to put a good amount of points, which I really do not see happening. They're going to have to get maybe a pick six or just good field position off turnovers or punts. But I just really am confident with the Eagles in this game. 97% of people on the Eagles, I think they probably feel the same way as me. I'm going to say the Eagles win this in a blowout, which I really don't predict too many blowouts in my picks, but I'm going to say Eagles win. I'll say 20. I honestly could see like them scoring 31, 35, but I'll say 28 to 10, something like that. I'll say 28-10 in the Eagles' favor. This has got to be the game of the week. Lions and Packers. I cannot wait to see how this game plays out. I think, honestly, the NFC is going to be won by one of these two teams. Before, my preseason predictions have gone to absolute shit. I uploaded it on my website. I think it's the first thing I uploaded to my website. If you guys wanted to ever look at that, most of my predictions have gone to absolute shit, and I probably look like an absolute idiot. But I did have a Lions Packers NFC Championship prediction before the season started, so that's in really good shape at least. The Lions look like the best team in football. Their offense has been historically great the past couple weeks. Goff having less incompletions than they have touchdowns for a couple weeks, just absolutely insane. They've been putting up 30, 40. Now they put up 50 points. The Packers have been playing really well. Jordan Love looks like he's good to go, but maybe he's going to be a little hobbled out there. Maybe the Lions take advantage of that. But, yeah, I'm picking the Packers in this game. The Lions are favored, which I don't blame the odds makers. I would say they're the better team right now, but I'm going with the Packers in this game. When these two teams matched up in Lambeau last year, it was a Thursday night game. The Lions were up big early, then the Packers cut into it late, and they ended up holding on the Lions. And then Thanksgiving, the Packers were dealing with injuries. The Lions were hot. Everyone picked the Lions, and the Packers ended up winning that game. Their offense moved up and down the field, and they were up. They were up 2 scores most of it. The Lions ended up only losing by 1 score. They scored at the end there, but Packers pretty much controlled that game. So they split last year. I honestly think they'll probably split this year again. I just think the Lions, with how great their offense has been, it's kind of due for maybe not a letdown game, but kind of a, how do I describe it? I don't want to say average game, but I don't even want to say come back down to earth game because they were consistently putting up this many points. Kind of I don't know, just like a game where they're due to score somewhere in like the 20s, I guess. The Packers defense has been balling out this whole year. I mean, maybe they slipped up a bit against the Jags last week, but that's okay. They ended up holding on. This might be even crazy to say, but even if Malik Willis was, and I got the Malik right, I didn't say Cunningham. Even if Malik Willis was playing for the Packers, I honestly would probably still pick them, as crazy as that might sound. But Jordan Love obviously playing, that gives me more confidence in picking them. I just think the Lions defense They kind of been struggling to get a pass rush consistently without Hutchinson. That's why they're probably going to end up making a trade. I think this is going to be the game where if the Packers offense, I think, is going to have kind of a fairly efficient day in this one. I think they'll probably put up around 27-ish points, but I think Love is going to have probably a good day slinging the ball. Maybe Josh Jacobs has a pretty good game running the ball, but I'm going to say the Lions defense plays well and Jacobs doesn't have a great game. Maybe a couple runs here and there, but I also could see him kind of breaking out in this game. Not breaking out because we know Josh Jacobs is a stud, but just having a really good game. But I think this could be the game where the Lions, they lose and their defense struggles to get a pass rush, maybe stop the run. This is the game where it's like, all right, yep, trade deadline. Pretty sure it's on Tuesday. Yep, we're going to go trade for a pass rusher, which Dan Campbell kind of teased it last week at his press conference. And there's reports about they're interested in a couple different guys. So I think they were interested in Josh Uche from us. And of course, we traded into the Chiefs of all teams for a friggin' 6th-round pick next year. Like, bruh, like, what are we doing? Or not next year, but in 2026, I think. Like, really? Why are we helping the Chiefs and getting absolutely nothing in return for a really good player? But anyway, obviously, you won't be trading for him now, is what I'm trying to say. But I just think the Packers defense plays a good game. Where it's, the Lions defense kind of maybe comes back down to earth. I don't want to say they fall off a little from putting up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Maybe they score 20. I mean, of course, they could score in the 30s. I don't think they'll score in the 40s or higher in this game. The Packers defense has been really good. They're very well coached by Jeff Hafley. But I just think the Packers their defense plays good. Oh God, this is such a hard game to pick. I'm just gonna say the Packers defense plays good and their offense moves the ball fairly well. I'm gonna say they put up 27 points and the Lions put up, I'm gonna say 27-21. I think early on, could see two scenarios here. That early on the Packers maybe go down the field, score, but I'll say early on the Lions defense, I could also see them kind of holding the Packers. I think Packers defense is going to hold the Lions early on, although maybe their opening drive they're really good at most of the time. They go down the field and score. But I'm going to say this is maybe a low-scoring game to start, and then the offenses kind of pick it up. But I could see a scenario where just both offenses play well or both defenses play well. I just could see like a million different scenarios in this game. But the one I'm going with is good Packers defensive performance, good offensive performance. They put up 27. Lions kind of have a mixed day of offense and defense. So I'm going to say 27-21 Packers, but I'm not very, very confident, even though I said I would even probably might pick Packers and Malik Cunningham. Almost did it. Malik Willis, not Cunningham. But, oh God, I'll probably say my confidence level is, I'll say 55-45, maybe even a bit closer than that. This is definitely pretty much a coin flip game. Would not at all be surprised the Lions win. Could see them putting up a bunch of points. Their defense playing well. I would not at all be surprised. I'm going to slightly lean Packers. Oh, God. I don't know. Just kind of a gut feeling on that one. But very excited to see how that game plays out. Rams Seahawks, this could be an interesting game. Seahawks have really been struggling since they started off 3-0. They had that good win against the Falcons, and then last week they just put up an absolute shitter against the Bills. I almost said the Seahawks, but they put up a shitter against themselves, which they did kind of because they really beat themselves for a portion of that game last week. They had a bunch of miscues on offense that they could have scored on. It was tight early on, tight at the half, and the Bills just ran away in the second half. But Seahawks have been struggling since they started off 3-0. The Rams are getting healthy, even though Puka looked like he had an injury scare this week, but I think he's good to go just as he gets back. But they're getting healthy. They've won 2 games in a row now. They are 3-4. Obviously, big win against the Vikings last week. their division's in play. If the Cardinals end up losing like I predicted them to, they'll both be, well, the Rams will be 4-4, the Cardinals will be 4-5, so they'll be matched in the win column. So the Rams are, I mean, I think anyone definitely could win the NFC West. That's definitely realistic. Even the Seahawks, them struggling. I mean, the Seahawks are 4-4, so they're tied in the win column for the division lead. But yeah, I mean the Rams are just getting healthy. I think they're gonna kind of go on a roll here. I think they're getting the Seahawks at a good time. The Seahawks are getting them at a bad time. Seahawks defense has just been struggling. Their offense has kind of been struggling. Rams defense has been pretty solid this year, maybe a bit surprising. And the Rams obviously, or not obviously, usually, I mean, have a tendency to play the Seahawks well. They're getting hot and healthy. They're going to make a run, try to win their division, get in the postseason. Seattle's struggling, just not playing great football. In Seattle, though, so of course the Seahawks could win. They're at home. These teams are fairly evenly matched. I think the Rams are better, but not like by a wide margin. Uh, their offense is capable of having a good game any week. And their defense, even though it's been struggling, it can definitely put together a good game any week. Mike Macdonald coaching them. But the Rams are just, I actually feel fairly confident in this one, kind of like a 65-35 split, maybe a 60-40 split. I'll say the Rams their offense plays well, and I think their defense plays well, and they end up winning this game. I'll say 20. I'll say 24 to. I'll say 24-14. I honestly kind of want to say they win by 10 for some reason, but I definitely, of course, could see a one-score game. If the Seahawks win, I definitely think it'll be a one-score game. But the Rams, I honestly kind of just think they win this. They're in control and they win. I don't think there's the way this game plays out. I don't think there's ever going to be like a significant doubt where it's like, oh my God, the Rams, they're going to get blown out. They're not going to win this game. I think they end up winning this game and controlling it. But of course, I can see the Seahawks winning that. Colts Vikings, interesting game. If this was Anthony Richardson, I would be hammering the Vikings money line with my sports books. I would be very confident with them. I think if Anthony Richardson started this game, I think that would be an absolute disaster. With Brian Flores' scheme, even though the Vikings defenses have not or has not played great the past 2 weeks to me, they've come back down to earth a little bit. His disguise scheme, the guys that have torched his defense were Goff and Stafford, not so much torch, but kind of picked it apart last week. Two veteran quarterbacks that know how to read defenses. On the other hand, Richardson is historically struggling with his completion percentage, and he's obviously, I don't think he's still learning to read defenses. He's still developing. So Brian Flores, I think, would have given him an absolute living nightmare, a game from hell, disguising his scheme. I just think that would have been an absolute disaster. But Anthony Richardson isn't starting. It's Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, which, by the way, some people are kind of split on the decision. Joe Flacco makes this team better right now. The couple games he's played, the Colts offense has been really good. Joe Flacco makes this team better right now than Richardson. And the Colts have said they're not like done with Richardson. They're just hoping he can learn from Flacco and develop under him. But it's going to be interesting to see how that scenario plays out. Getting your franchise QB getting benched for 39-year-old Joe Flacco, it's not like Joe Flacco's been a bum. He played really good with the Browns last year, obviously, and he's played good this year. It's been really good to see Joe Flacco playing good. I've always respected Joe Flacco. Obviously, back in the day, my team, the Patriots, we had a really good rivalry with the Ravens. So even though obviously I never like rooted for Joe Flacco, obviously especially when we were playing with him, but I've always respected Joe Flacco. I think he's always been a pretty solid quarterback. Obviously, there's that whole elite conversation. He's been playing elite since he came back last year. You can make an argument, but it's a lot harder for me to predict this game with Flacco in there. But yeah, just interesting decision for them to bench Richardson. Yeah, it just makes it just. I'm just interested to see how that plays out. Some people are saying they should have just stuck with him. You don't want to bench him for Flacco, but yeah, I mean, they're trying to win now, and I think Joe Flacco simply is the better option for that currently. And it's just hard because they're trying to balance out the future because obviously Joe Flacco is not going to be a long-term solution unless he pulls a Brady and plays till 45 and puts up good numbers till then. But obviously that's the very, very slim chance that will happen. So Joe Flacco is just kind of a band-aid solution rather than a long-term solution. So it's going to be just very interesting to see how this scenario plays out. I'm just trying to, yeah, just kind of a weird situation. Just, I don't mean to keep saying this like a million times, but just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Benching your franchise quarterback like that, even though he's playing bad. So, Flacco, though, is going to be able to diagnose, or maybe not completely diagnose the defense, but he's going to be able to diagnose it better than Richardson, and it's come back to earth, as I mentioned. The Vikings defense past couple weeks. Colts offense has been pretty good. Shane Steichen, a really good schemer, play caller, game planner. So maybe Shane Steichen puts together a good game plan, and Joe Flacco just finds the open receivers. But I'm going to go with the Vikings in this game. They've lost two in a row, and they're looking to bounce back. They're at home. Uh, yeah, they're at home. Their offense has played pretty good, even though they've lost. Their defense, I think, probably is a bounce back performance in this one. Even though I just kind of outlined the scenario of the Colts, maybe they moved the ball well throughout the game, but I think maybe they do through portions of it. But I think the Vikings defense is a bounce back game. I kind of the magic number I'm kind of confident with the Colts scoring is 17, maybe 20, but I don't really see much more than that. Maybe 24 at the absolute max. I'm going to say 17 for the Colts. The Colts defense has just not been very good this season. Kevin O'Connell, obviously another good offensive game planner, schemer, play caller. Their defense, I mean, their offense, I mentioned, played fairly well the past 2 weeks, even though they've lost. Even though they kind of have a tendency to stall out at points in the season here. That Green Bay game, that Jets game, the Lions game for a bit there after they had that early lead. And then the last game, they scored 2 touchdowns in their first 2 drives, if I remember right. And then after that, they struggled to put up points, even though there's that drop there that might have probably would have been a touchdown or led to a touchdown. That sucked for the Vikings. That would have been a big play. Probably might have changed the course of the game, but who knows? I just think the Vikings offense has a good game in this one. I feel I'm going to say 27-17, and I actually feel like I don't know why. My gut just kind of says 27-17, but I could see a scenario where, again, Joe Flacco just balls out, finds open receivers, and they put up more than 17, maybe 24-ish, maybe even 27-ish at the absolute most. But I just think the Vikings bounce back. They just lost Darisaw for the year, obviously, on the play. They're just trying to run the clock out at the first half. That sucks for them. They just traded with the Jags for Cam Robinson, just a rental. But yeah, the Vikings, I just think bounce back in this one. Wouldn't be completely shocked if the Colts won. I think it should be close to the 94-6 split here in my league. Probably closer to like maybe 70-30-ish, something in that range. I'm gonna say my confidence level is about 65. I'll say 65-35 in the Vikings' favor. Yeah, I just think they have a bounce back game in this one. I'll say 27-17. Or honestly, do I want to say 27-20? No, he's kind of feeling good about 17 for the Colts. Do I say 27-17 or is 27-20? I'll say 27-17, or do I want to say 20? I don't know. Oh God. I'll say 27-17. Just stick with it. Bucks and Chiefs. Interesting game here. I'm definitely going to go with the Chiefs in this game. A couple weeks ago when I saw this game on the schedule, I'm like, oh, this could be an interesting game. Bucks have been putting up a lot of points. Their offense has been moving. But now they have no Evans and Godwin going against this elite Chiefs defense that game plans and executes well every week, no matter the opponent. Bucks offense was pretty solid last week, though, without their top two guys. So maybe they can string together good points in this one. The Chiefs offense, or their defense rather, even though it's been really good, it kind of has the ability to get torched and give up that big play. And even though the Bucks are missing their guys, I could see a scenario where their offense gets some big plays. Maybe Baker finds some open receivers to get some nice yards after catch, some yak there. But the Bucks defense has just been an absolute mess the past couple weeks. But now it's a prime time game. Maybe they clean it up. Todd Bowles puts together a good game plan. Obviously, he put together that game plan Super Bowl 55, where, and again, this game was years ago, 3 years ago, both almost 4 in a couple months. Jesus, I remember that game like it was yesterday because I'm like a diehard Tom Brady fan and absolutely hate Mahomes. So that game was like heaven for me. But anyway, but he put together that game plan, obviously, that shut down Mahomes and the Chiefs. But their defense just been struggling. But then it's a prime time game, so maybe they kind of just settle in, play well. Chiefs offense has obviously not been great this year, but it's kind of been efficient. They move the ball through portions of it and put up a respectable amount of points every week. I think the game plays out like that. I'm going to say I'm going to say the Chiefs. I'm kind of set with 27 as their scoring number. Although I could see 31. I don't think they'll get much more than that. But I'm going to say the Chiefs win this game 27-17. I think the Bucks have portions of this game. Like I mentioned, maybe they move the ball well, get a couple good plays, but I think they probably stall out in the red zone maybe. Maybe they find the end zone a couple times. Obviously 17, that's 2 touchdowns, 2 extra points, and a field goal. But I just think that Bucks missing their top 2 guys. I would probably pick the Chiefs even if the Bucks were missing their top 2 guys, or did have their top 2 guys. I mean, Evans and Godwin. But yeah, I just think the Chiefs defense plays really well. I think their offense kind of is an up and down game. I could see a scenario where they just have a really efficient game, move the ball well through most of it. When these teams played 2 years ago, the Chiefs offense moved the ball up and down the field the whole game. The Bucks defense could really not stop them for most of it. I could see a scenario like that, but I'm going to say that Bucks defense plays better, a little bit better than it has been the past couple weeks. They force a couple stops. And I think this game, a lot of people I see are thinking the Chiefs are picking the Chiefs to just blow the Bucks out. I think this game is going to be like relatively close. I think the Chiefs are going to lead for probably all of the game, probably jump out to an early lead and hold it. But I don't think it's going to be at a point where the Bucks are completely out of it. It's like impossible for them to win. I think it's going to probably be within like 10 points for most of this game, and it's just going to kind of stay like that. But yeah, I could see a scenario though, even with the Bucks missing their top 2 guys, their defense just plays well. Todd Bowles cleans some things up, and the Bucks offense just kind of has success. The Chiefs are obviously extremely overdue for a loss. they keep winning ugly and ugly and ugly. Bucks kind of desperately need a win now. They do not want to drop below 500, especially they just got swept by the Falcons, so they really cannot afford a lot more losses. They want to win their division, so maybe they're a bit desperate in this one. But maybe the Bucks throw out some trick plays offensively. Uh, yeah, I just can't pick the Bucks. I'm gonna say Chiefs win 27-17, and yeah, that's my why I have my 44 total points tiebreaker there. Interesting game though. I'm looking forward to watching this one. I really do hope the Bucks win though, because I just cannot stand the Chiefs. I hate them. Yeah, there's something else about this game. Let me think. No, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, a bunch of good games this week. This game should be good. This one should be good. This should be good. Obviously, this game's gonna be. Cannot wait for this one. Yeah, not so much this game. I don't think this game will be interesting. This game could be interesting. Yeah, not. I really don't think this game is going to be everyone's number one priority unless you're a Saints or Panthers fan. Even Panthers fans, I think, probably don't even might not even care so too much. They're just so depressed at this point how terrible they are. Their team is just really bad. This could be interesting, but yeah, this could be interesting. Yep, looking forward to this game. Really hope we can win. This could be interesting. Uh, this could be interesting when I think the Bengals pretty confident. This think that I'm pretty confident with the Bills that it could be interesting, and this could be interesting definitely. And this is kind of a weird game, but starting off 1-0. Always good to start off 1-0. But yeah, a bunch of good games this week. As I always say, good luck with your betting, fantasy. Big fantasy week for me. Need some wins here for a couple of my teams. But yeah, good luck betting, fantasy, with your picks, all that good stuff. I will end the video here. Hopefully you guys enjoy this week of football. And yeah, thank you for tuning in and take it easy. Thanks, guys.